From brutally killing people to secretly trafficking cocaine, this cartel has been described as one of the most notorious cocaine trafficking networks, driving worsening levels of violence in the continent. We're talking about the Kinahan Cartel. Today we're going to see Irish Kinahan's unprecedented rise from Dublin's inner city to become one of the world's biggest and most powerful criminal networks. The Kinahan Organized Crime Group, commonly known as the Kinahan Cartel, is a huge Irish transnational organized crime syndicate that is said to be the most powerful in Ireland and one of the largest organized crime groups in the world. Christy Kinahan chose a life of crime. He wasn't born into it. He was smart, engaging, and had options. Despite being raised in a middle-class family and attending one of Ireland's best schools, he chose to be a crook. His criminal history began in the 1970s when he was arrested for burglary, theft, forgery, and property crimes. It wasn't until the late 1990s that he got into the drug business, which would make him famous. According to reports, the organization began as a street gang of inner-city heroin traffickers in Dublin, but quickly expanded on a worldwide scale to become the world multi-million-dollar criminal network that it is today. Christy was the organization's main head until his son Daniel Kinahan took over. Since then, the Irish courts have ruled that the gang is a deadly organization involved in worldwide drug and weapons trafficking. On April 12, 2022, the U.S. Department of State announced the availability of up to $5 million USD in rewards under the Narcotics Rewards Program for information leading to the arrest and/or conviction of Kinahan family members. The prize is being presented in collaboration with the Garda Síochána, the National Crime Agency, and the Drug Enforcement Administration. They are also banned from entering the United States after being named to the FBI and DEA's list of narco-terrorists. 27 other Kinahan cartel associates are also banned from entering the United States. When Christy Kinahan established this drug-dealing network in Dublin, he was already well known to the police as a crook, but virtually no one outside of the local station had ever heard of him. According to American investigators, he now controls one of the world's greatest criminal gangs, compared to Italy's Camorra Mafia or Mexico's famed Los Zetas, and his name is known across continents. His Kinahan cartel is claimed to be worth $1 billion, with an operation that spans from the cocaine plantations of South America via the inner towns of Ireland and the UK to the beautiful desert oasis of Dubai. Over the span of 3 decades, the Kinahans and their accomplices, including Estonia hitman dubbed The Butcher, an armorer known as Mr. Nobody, and a gangland enforcer simply called Hatchet, have been tied to drug smuggling, gun running, and killings, including the renowned Kinahan-Hutch rivalry. Kinahan had bigger ambitions than running an inner Dublin dealing ring with old associate Thomas Kavanagh. When he was imprisoned in the late 1990s for drug offenses, he used his time behind bars to become fluent in Spanish and Dutch, skills he used upon his release to expand his business internationally. His sons Daniel and Christy Jr. were indoctrinated into the business, with Daniel accused by the Dublin High Court in 2018 of running the majority of the day-to-day operations, which included arms dealing as well as drug trafficking across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and South America. Christy Jr. is said to be in charge of the accounts. Daniel, who denies any involvement with organized crime, is also a boxing promoter who has represented boxers such as Tyson Fury. He was said to have played a role in putting together a fight between Fury and Anthony Joshua that was supposed to take place last year but fell through. Christy Sr. had run-ins with the law over the years, serving time in jail in Belgium and the Netherlands. But aside from a run-in with the Irish National Liberation Army, the gang operated with near impunity as the Irish Garda struggled to track their international operations. All of that changed in September 2015 when Gary Hutch, a member of the rival Hutch gang and Gary's nephew, was shot dead at his home in Spain's Costa del Sol. Gary allegedly worked with Daniel Kinahan until the two fell out over a scheme involving a tiger kidnapping, in which criminals kidnap hostages and then use them as leverage to force their target to commit a crime on their behalf. Rumors began to circulate that Gary was a snitch for Spanish authorities, which were later proven false. Money was exchanged, and one of Gary's associates allegedly agreed to be shot in the leg as blood payment for the alleged treachery. But none of that mattered in the end, as Gary was gunned down by hitman James Quinn, who was later convicted of murder after reportedly begging for his life. This sparked a brutal and bloody gang war known as the Hutch-Kinahan feud, in which at least 18 people were killed, the majority of whom were shot over the next 3 years. Most of the Hutch gang was 6 feet under by the end of it. In cases of mistaken identity, 2 innocent bystanders were also killed. The feud reached a climax in February 2016, when Daniel Kinahan narrowly escaped an audacious assassination attempt that killed David Byrne, a Kinahan associate and the brother of Liam Byrne, one of the gang's senior members. Daniel was attending a weigh-in for a boxing match in which Jamie Kavanagh, whose father, Gerard Hatchet Kavanagh, was an enforcer for the gang, who would face Portuguese fighter Antonio Joe Bento. While those involved in the fight milled about in the lobby of Dublin's Regency Hotel, 6 Hutch gang assassins carried out a raid. A getaway driver positioned himself outside the hotel, while 2 others, one dressed as a woman, stood guard with handguns at the door. Then, 3 men in Garrardi riot gear burst through the door. The trio opened fire in the lobby with AK-47 rifles, killing Byron. Daniel survived and claimed he saw the rifles being pulled 20 feet away before narrowly escaping as gunfire rang out. Due to the South American connection, authorities increased their efforts to capture the gang, bringing in the UK's National Crime Agency, the EU Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation, and the US State Department. His involvement in the sport was revealed in a BBC documentary. The photo ops, which he organized in Dubai, have since continued, with him posing with several boxers, promoters, and even politicians to give the impression of legitimacy. In 2020, a photo was taken in Kazakhstan with boxing promoter Bob Arum. It implies that if he overstays his welcome with the UAE, there may be others waiting to welcome him in his billion-dollar network. They delivered their first serious blow to the gang in March, when Thompson Kavanagh and 2 associates, Daniel Canning and Gary Vickery, were imprisoned on gun, drug, and money laundering charges. Thomas Bomber Kavanagh, originally from Dublin, ran the Kinahan Cartel's UK operations until he was sentenced earlier this year to 21 years in prison for drug smuggling. Kavanagh was sentenced to 21 years in prison for smuggling cocaine and cannabis worth £30 million hidden inside industrial equipment. Police who raided his bulletproof mansion in Tamworth, near Birmingham, discovered large amounts of cash and weapons. His conviction resulted in the demise of the UK branch of operations. The following month, the US State Department sanctioned 7 other members of the gang, the majority of whom were now based in Dubai. Garda Commissioner Drew Harris stated at the time that while the gang leaders had previously fled the law, they would not be able to do so indefinitely and would soon run out of money. The second blow was struck earlier this month when Johnny Cash Marissi was arrested in Spain on suspicion of overseeing the group's money laundering operations. Marissi, a former Rockdale doorman with an Irish passport, was arrested following a raid on his home. The raid shattered the gang's operations in Spain, according to police, who accused Marissi of assisting in the laundering of $330,000 per day. According to Spanish detectives, the cash was not physically moved out of Spain, but rather dispersed around the world via an ancient money transfer system known as hawala. The informal method of moving money, which derives from an Arabic term for transfer or trust and involves a network of brokers, has been used by criminal gangs who use code numbers or tokens such as banknotes torn in half to prove cash is due. The start of the Spanish police investigation, according to detectives, was a seizure of 200 kilograms of cocaine and $470,000 in cash hidden in vehicles with sophisticated concealment systems at the beginning of last year. Along with Marissi, Spanish police arrested his wife Nicola, who was later released, and another associate. A third man was arrested in the United Kingdom. Several searches of residential and commercial properties were conducted in both Spain and the UK, including 2 in Glasgow and 1 in Haywood, Rockdale, and Greater Manchester. That's it for today, guys. This was the rise of the Irish Kinahan Cartel. I really hope you were able to learn something new and enjoyed the video.